For the last 50 years, an environmental organization has dedicated itself to supporting the commitment and creativity of those determined to meet the challenges posed by climate change and reduce pollution and overexploitation of the natural environment. This is the story of the World Wildlife Fund in Belize. All around us exist ecosystems, fragile but highly productive communities of living things. But both natural and man-made forces pose serious threats to the delicate balance of ecosystems. However, by introducing simple and often cost-effective techniques, these threats can be minimized. In Belize, the WWF is on a mission to share such techniques and support anyone adopting these measures.
The World Wildlife Fund has been one of our strongest supporter, and the idea of developing a coastal zone management plan sits very well with their own particular strategy in terms of global environmental sustainability, and to that extent they have partnered with us in helping to develop our plan.
A healthy shoreline and intact inner lagoons are important elements to creating a healthy environment for the reef. But littoral and mangrove forests are under tremendous pressure from coastal and island development ventures.
I get frustrated sometimes because I watch other developers come down and they will invest enormous amounts of money in seawalls. Seawalls will fall down, they'll pick them up again. They're working under some mistaken belief that the people from abroad who want to buy their whatever they're selling in the way of land, that somehow those people want to see a nice, neat, straight seawall so they can park their yacht right up against the seawall. That's the image they have. In fact, you can build a perfectly good dock outside of the mangrove hedging. Granted, you break a little 5-foot hole through it to get out to the dock, but what could be nicer than having a dock running parallel to your mangrove? It's a natural little buffer, and it's 1/10 the price. So sometimes I just don't get it.
As part of the education efforts in 2009, the WWF launched the Mangrove Challenge, an annual competition designed to identify and champion developers and citizens for mangrove conservation and restoration projects.
We all know that mangroves are threatened, from development. So what we've been doing is trying to promote or showcase those practices or initiatives that have essentially tried to conserve mangroves or preserve mangroves, in the wild or on private properties or on public properties.
Mainly what I do is work with seagrasses, mangroves, actually doing a lot of shoreline restoration and reclamation. No? This project really got started a couple of years ago with WWF, where we decided that we needed to see some restoration of mangroves in areas that were being developed. And one, we're losing a vital nursery, for fish species. Two, the mangrove actually form a buffer against our shorelines in terms of keeping them intact. And three, we also have their function as filters, keeping the lagoon water clean and therefore keeping our marine waters clean.
It's a beautiful day. We're glad everybody came out. We have several kinds of mangroves that we're going to plant today. Adrian's going to walk us through all of the different kinds and sort of give tips on how to plant them properly. By planting mangroves, we hope we can increase the resilience of the shoreline here, increase the ability of the community to use this shoreline, and we're very glad to be involved in that work.
Out today, what we're going to try and do, we have propagules here today, and we're going to be planting propagules as well as with the other types of mangrove, the black and the white. We're going to be trying to put seedlings in the ground. Some of the mangrove projects that we're working with is like this one that we have here in Dolphin Park, is getting the community involved and getting them a bit more knowledgeable on what the mangrove is, its importance to the environment, as well as showing them the positive ways to go about handling mangroves, as well as ways to go about
developing an area with mangroves.
So WWF is going to chip in. We'll get the mangrove started here, and we'll try to provide some support and protection for these areas back here. Okay. And hopefully we'll end up with something that people can really be happy with. Mangroves do some really vital things along the coastline. On a global scale, they're also very important because they're a carbon sink. A lot of carbon goes into mangroves, and as mangroves grow, when they're building peat underneath them, they can actually store carbon and actually build up the land a little bit at the same time. And the hope here is that we can have mangroves incorporated into development as Belize continues to develop. That we'll have areas that are set aside with mangroves that are just natural and pristine, and then they'll also be used in places where housing occurs, or places like this park where people come and enjoy the shoreline. They can enjoy the shoreline with mangroves there also.
In the past, most Belizeans thought of mangrove as the place where you have mosquitoes. But since I've grown up, I've come to realize that mangroves is much more beneficial than just mosquitoes.
Businessman Henry Young Sr. was recognized as a Mangrove Challenge awardee for his determined efforts to protect and maintain the mangrove perimeter of his island development venture.
I'm a product of the sea. My father was a seaman, a beacon keeper, and I happen to know that we need to protect mangroves along the entire coastline of Belize, or else our grandchildren will have a lot of regrets if we do not make efforts to do this.
In 2009, developer Stuart Crone was one of the Mangrove Challenge awardees for his project Cocoa Plum, a residential and resort community on the Placencia Peninsula.
We planted thousands and thousands of mangrove seedlings, and the survival rate was probably around 98–99%. And what happened was they grew very quickly, and today, only maybe 2 or 3 years after we planted them, in many areas you have a thick wall and a thick hedge of both red and buttonwood mangrove that serves as an excellent erosion preventer and is aesthetically very pleasing and promotes fish growth.
Those results have also occurred in Key Cocker.
These plants are a year old, but oh boy, when we first came back here, this was very thin. And it's just picked up, but you can see that this is all hurricane kill. And so that was why we decided to include mangroves, and believe me, I think it's well worth it. We just don't want this place to be completely wiped out in the first hurricane that comes along. So we will use the native vegetation to try to slow the current flow. That's what its job is anyway.
Ella McRae and the members of the Key Cocker Forest and Marine Reserve are one of the 2010 Mangrove Challenge winners. The group continues to use restoration efforts as an educational tool, especially to their student volunteers.
Right now we're having global warming, right? We need like protection that better than keeping garbage and destroying the place.
Basically, if we don't protect what we have, we won't have anything to appreciate in the future. Yeah.
Our belief in Siwaban, and it's brought over into FAMRAC, is that people can't make intelligent decisions about the environment if they don't understand how it works and what the value of it is.
The brown part after this, you just hold it and you just...
Their hard work and satisfying outcome has made FAMRAC members eager to share what they've learned with anyone willing to try.
And we don't mind help nobody. Any community that wants to get help, they want to ask questions, we're right here. If they want, we could go show them. If they're in San Pedro, if they want to be in Placencia, any place in Belize. And even if you're not in Belize, if they call you in Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, we will be there and show them. It's easy. We could take the seats for them too.
Throughout history, nature has demonstrated its built-in resiliency, but nature has also shown us its vulnerability to pollution, overfishing, coastal development, and unregulated tourism. The goal of the World Wildlife Fund is not to keep people out of nature or prevent communities from developing. The World Wildlife Fund is all about finding practical solutions for a healthy planet, a planet where people and nature can thrive together in a stable environment now and for generations to come.
You know, everybody have a role to play, from the kids in the school to the parent to the average person walking on the street to an organization to a private sector entity to a government entity. We can all work together, try to work together in a very coordinated manner as possible to try and see how best we can conserve our resources, promote sustainable utilization of our resources so that Belize can make that stride towards reaching sustainable development. If we all come together in a very coordinated and integrated manner, sustainable development will be achievable. It will no longer be seen as something abstract, but something very tangible, something that you can reach out and touch.
For more information on the World Wildlife Fund programs in Belize, please contact our office in Belize City or visit our website at www.wwfca.org. WWF, for a living planet.